So my rent is due in 30 days, and I'm only a new Roblox developer with 3 months of scripting experience, no coding background, no game development background. I think I'm screwed. If I don't build a successful Roblox game in 30 days, I'll straight up be broke and homeless. So subscribe to find out if I actually make it to day 30 as a Roblox millionaire, or if I end up sleeping at my local 7-Eleven dumpster. Okay, so this is day 8 of making a Roblox game in 30 days to pay my rent. Today, I want to work on the weapon system that we created last episode a little bit more. I want to make sure that the weapons will do damage to the cores, to the different team cores. And I also want to add the functionality of not being able to do team damage because I don't want players to attack their own teammates. We had that in the original sword, but now that we've upgraded that sword to a new framework so that we can make a lot more, we still need to add that new functionality. But I don't want to just do boring polish work this whole episode. By the end of the episode, I also want to script the first bow into the game. So I'm going to have to work on creating the bow class, and hopefully by the end of this video, we'll have a fully working bow ready to show you guys. So let's get started. Okay, so I just figured something out that's super important. When I set up the hitbox API or hitbox class, the one that I downloaded online, I set up this folder called alive entities, and the way that the hitbox class works is you have to put any characters that contain humanoids, anything that you want to damage or that you want the hitbox to trigger with, you have to put it inside alive entities. So once I put this rig inside of alive entities, I actually was able to damage it. I was like so confused on why my damage wasn't going through, but that was the fix. So what I'll need to do is I'll need to put the team cores inside of alive entities as well, and then I'll be able to do damage to those. So let's continue. Okay, so now I am pretty much finishing up the tagging function. Here in the weapons class, I've added a new method called weapon tag humanoid, and every time the weapon does damage to another player, it will tag that humanoid with a creator tag, which once they die, we will claim that creator tag to the player that last did damage. So I'm having a problem now where no matter how many times I hit somebody, it'll create like that many player tags or creator tags. So if I hit somebody 10 times, I'll have 10 creator tags and they'll disappear after 10 seconds, but that sounds kind of like a system overload, especially if a lot of players are fighting. So I am just going to add a way to overwrite the creator tag once it's applied. Alright, so now we only get one creator tag assigned and it doesn't duplicate a bunch, so now the creator tagging will work correctly. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the kill tracking working fully now. So if I kill a player, I just gained an extra kill point. So now we can go ahead and move on to making sure that there is no team killing. And then after that, we can get into the fun stuff, which is making the bow. I'm speeding up my explanation coming up here just because I didn't realize how long it took me to explain such a simple thing. Okay, awesome. We're finally able to do damage to the core. Let's check it out. Sweet. Now we just need to add the end game functionality with this core that we added before, but now we need to add it onto this model, and we probably need to work the script a little bit better to make sure that it's cleaner. So I'm going to show you really quickly the way that I got this team checker working for players and also for the core. So the way that I'm tracking the core's team is if you go inside of each core, I've added this object value called team, and I set this object value's corresponding value equal whatever team that core is assigned to. So team 1's core, this team value is set to the actual team 1 here, and then same thing with team 2's core, but it's set to team 2. So now if we go into our weapon class, we can see here that I added a new attribute called team, and I'm establishing it here so it's set to nil, but we can see here that if self.owner exists when this weapon is equipped, then it'll set the team to my player, which is self.owner. This is my player, and we can see that we established that here. Self.owner is equal to player. So self.owner.team, which would be my team. So now anywhere else that we use self.team, that's going to equal whatever our player's team is. So now if we scroll down here to apply damage. So what I did here is I'm basically running checks before it actually applies the damage and adds the tag to claim the kill. And we can see that these checks, the first thing is it checks if the player hit, which is the target. The target is the character. So we use this function get player from character target to return the target's player. And this would error out if I had just put the if statement player hit dot team, because if I end up hitting the core, then this function right here will return nil because the core doesn't have a player. So first we check if player dot hit or player hit is not equal to nil. And then if it's not equal to nil, then we know that we've actually hit a character. And we're going to say if this player's team is equal to my object's team, which is me, my team, then return, and it'll close out of this function. And if it doesn't return and it gets past this, it's not the same team, then we go over to the core team checker, and this will assign the team value that we have set up inside of the core, which would be the target in this case, and it assigns it to core team. And then we just do a simple check here to see that if core team's value is equal to self.team, then it'll return if it's the same team, and it'll end everything. It won't start anything here. And actually, I just saw a flaw with this. Even though we do have find first child and this will be set to nil. We probably should we probably should check to see if this is a core, if the core team does exist. If this value doesn't exist, and then we try to compare it to self.team, we're gonna get an error whenever we try to hit a player, which I haven't tried yet, so that's probably why I'm just noticing it now. So let me set this to core team, and then we will put this in there. Perfect. So now it shouldn't error out either way, and then make sure that it's not core that's on your team, and it's not a player that's on your team. It'll go ahead and do damage to the entity, which would end up being either the enemy's core or an enemy player. So that's how that works. Now let's finish scripting some core functionality. Let's have the core explode and then reset the round. After we've got that done, I am going to start making the bow. This is going to be a long night. Okay, so I believe I've got it down now, so when I destroy the core, it should reset the game. Yep, you see that it's resetting the game, and then it should have the core respawn back in. So let me check that happens. Okay, it looks like I broke something. Oh gosh, let me figure out what happened. What the heck is going on? Okay, so I believe I've got the game loop down now without any problems. Well, this core has 0 health, so clearly I have a problem. What is this hitbox? Alright, let me figure out what's going on here. Okay, so the main issue I was having here was that once the humanoid was dying, meaning its health being turned to 0, I was trying to just revive it by setting its health back to its max health, which I just learned the hard way. Several, maybe 30 or 40 minutes of trying to figure it out on why that doesn't work. When a humanoid dies, you can't just revive them. So here I end up just scripting a clone of the old core and just placing it back in its place to reset it. Okay, so hopefully this game should reset properly and the cores will reset themselves as well. And I'm not too worried about the timing in between each round. I'll work on that later. So let's join Red Fang since we just destroyed Red Fang's core. And it looks like the core is back up. And if we check, there is just one team core and the health is set to 500, just like the original core. We did get an error though. Oh, it's because we were trying to get the primary parts position, which we don't actually need because apparently clone actually takes the position into account as well. We're not even setting the position over here. We don't even need that. That should be fine without it. Some important things that I reworked with the main game loop, and I can't even call it a loop anymore because it's not. And that's the biggest change. I didn't think that a loop constantly checking to see if the game is active. I didn't think that was efficient. So I just created an object. Well, I've had this object, but now I'm using it. It's called game active, and it's just a Boolean value, true or false. And when the game is active, it's set to true. Now I set up this get property change signal, which is a connection that checks to see when this Boolean that I created over here changes, then it's going to come down and execute this. So if it's equal to false, which means the game ends, then it'll start the reset game function. And the way that we set this game active to false, because we could see here that when the game starts, it's set to true. The way that I set it is here in the core died listener. This just listens for when one of the core dies, and then it announces one of the winners and things like that. But here's also where I set the game active Boolean value to false, and then this fires and resets the game. So no more game loop, no more infinite loop checking. And I also eliminated the loop that loops through all of these main game functions. Before it was just a while true do loop, so it infinitely went back. But I decided to do kind of the same setup here so that we could have less loops and less checks. Figured this is more optimal. I don't know if this is the most optimal way to go about it, this setup right here, but I know it's probably more optimal than having just an infinite going loop that's constantly checking and hogging resources. Yeah, some pretty good progress. I think we're ready to start with the bow now. Finally. Oh my gosh, it's already midnight, but we're gonna get this done. Okay, so I just realized I had been using the hitbox slightly wrong. I was creating a custom hitbox based around some size parameters. But I just tried setting the actual here. I set the, let's see, man, where is it? Okay, so I set in the hitbox parameter, I set the hitbox to the actual handle part itself, and this API or this hitbox module actually will follow the part. So now it's insanely accurate and it moves with me. I was wondering why the square wouldn't move with me. I thought that was a little inefficient, but now, yeah, this is like insane accuracy. Anyways, let's get back to the bow. set network ownership, and I didn't know about it before, but I was reading into projectiles and I saw how important it is, and I think I have a good understanding of it now. Hopefully I do, but I'm sure I'll get roasted in the comments if I don't. So set network ownership, it basically allows you to set a part's ownership. Which network owns that part? So which player is that part accurately going to hit to? So in this case of an arrow, I would want the network owner to be the person that fired the arrow, because if the person that fired the arrow hits another player on his screen, then I want it to hit that player, even if on that other player's screen, if it didn't hit him directly. I think that's how hit detection should work. It should be based on the player that fires the projectile. So if I hard set the arrow to the owner of the person that shot the arrow, the network. Sorry, I can't speak well right now. It is midnight. It is past midnight. So but yeah, basically this line right here will make the projectile way more accurate to the person that fired it. All right, this is definitely not a full working bow, guys. The framework is built out, but the body velocity part of it, or I guess the linear velocity now, because apparently body velocity is deprecated. I'm just not doing the linear velocity part right. Actually, no, I am doing the linear velocity part right, but I don't think linear velocity is what we need to use, because from my understanding now, linear velocity is just that. It's linear, so it goes straight, and you can't really add gravity to it, from my understanding. So I probably need to use something else like vector velocity. I got to do a little more research, but the framework for the bow is done. I just need to rework the projectile part. So here, I'll show you what I mean. Ignore the model. I just found a random model on the toolbox so I could test it out, and the projectile right now, instead of an arrow, it's just a part. So check it out. It shoots and it's fast. It's cool, but it should do damage as well. We can actually test the damage right now. Hold on. Yeah, see? It should do damage. Yeah, it's just shooting so fast. But it's doing damage to the core, as you can see. Realistically, I want this arrow to be able to, first of all, be like an actual arrow model. I want a better bow model, which I will figure out. And I want there to be drop to the arrow, and I want you to be able to aim it wherever you click, rather than just wherever you're facing. So those are some things I'm going to work on next time. I'm going to count this as a win, just because I built out the framework and it works just like the sword does. So yeah, we'll work on the actual physics next time. And remember, now that I have this framework in place, I only need to work on these physics once. Once the physics are in place, every bow I make from there on will have those same physics. So it's just going to be smooth sailing once I get that done. Anyways, it's 1:30 a.m. I'm super tired, so I'm going to call it here. Thank you guys again so much for for the comments and the constant support. I couldn't even believe how much support I'm getting. I wasn't even expecting people to be watching this. I wanted to do this for myself, just a challenge to see if I could actually end up paying my rent in 30 days, and I wanted to do that with a successful Roblox game, but I didn't think my YouTube would end up getting any views. So again, thank you guys so much. All of it's super valuable to me, and please leave any comments with any suggestions that you have for this game. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow.